Hey, the moon is in Cancer and it's squaring off with the sun. So expect things to be a little emotional. It's really easy to get in our feels and be reactive. But when is being what appears to be reactive being responsive? That's something we don't talk about enough. Sometimes we have big feelings and they bring up the fact that we need our needs met, right? Hey there. And so when we're being reactive, once in a while, it's to push us into being responsive. But it takes taking a step back and reflecting just a little bit. And when we have crunchy transits, like when the moon is squaring off with the sun or Mercury or Pluto, these are times where we can be very reactive, but it might serve a purpose as well. It's not always bad to be reactive. It's better to be more deliberate in it. So when we feel those big feelings coming up, when our moon is being triggered for whatever reason, then it's important to take a deep breath and go, okay, what's the objective? What do I want? This is all stuff that's going to be taught in the mystery school, by the way. I'm taking the whole of next week off to finish up all the last bits and pieces, and we'll be putting in our Living by Luna and Cosmic Surfers members to make sure everything's running perfectly before we open it up to the wider public. So yeah, so you relapsed today? Oh honey, I'm sorry. Don't be hard on yourself. You know what to do. Sometimes when there's a lot of pressure, it's easy to kind of do that. So the worst thing you can do is really beat yourself up, so you want to just collect yourself again and make sure you have the support to get back into a healthy mindset. And it takes a minute. Don't be mean to yourself. It takes people a couple of times sometimes. Yeah, I'm sorry, honey. You love the new profile pic? I have a bunch of new pictures. I do. We're building up the new website. We're getting the mystery school done. We're getting my website done. And I'll be moving over to my new website. So yeah, hey Astro fam, how you doing? Yeah, so we've been talking a little bit about when things are a little crunchy. So right now, the moon is square the sun. And it's easy to be in the feels, okay? There's nothing wrong with being in the feels. First of all, there are no bad feelings. There are uncomfortable feelings, but there are no bad feelings, okay? It's okay to feel everything. It's what we do with the feelings, right? It's what we do with the feelings. And so one of the most important things we can learn for ourselves is to take some moments in time, those little moments of destiny where we have decisions to make. A lot of times those show up in charts as squares, okay? Squares can be moments in time where we have a decision to make. And making no decision is still a decision. So sometimes when we want to go la 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 la, it's not happening and it's not happening, or we're overly worried about a particular outcome, those things are decisions, okay, where we're making the decision. So it's really important. I keep talking about bring the energy inside. Like when you bring it inside to you, when you bring you back to you, what is it you actually need? So a lot of times we do put a lot of weight on relationships. We do. And a great relationship is amazing. There's nothing better than being in a good relationship, whether it's a friend or with family or in a romantic relationship. But you have to ask, when you're in that relationship, is it mutual? Are your needs being met? If your needs aren't being met and they haven't ever been met, is it the fear of being alone? Or is it the need to look like you're normal and you have a relationship out in the world? That's part of our programming, especially as women. Are you feeling the need to be coupled, held together because of social expectations? Do you feel like you're not enough without a relationship? Okay. And then sometimes we can really love somebody, okay? We can really love someone, but they can't love us back the way we love. Okay. And that's a time where you have to be like, it's not even about blaming the other person. I know a lot of people like to talk about narcissists and what have you. I think the use of the term narcissist is way overused. Okay. Especially if you've actually dealt with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. Everybody is narcissistic to a certain degree. We're all self-interested. Okay. Everybody is. I am, you are, we all are. Okay. A lot of times it is just some people don't have the emotional intelligence, or they haven't done enough healing to be able to contribute meaningfully, okay, to a relationship. And if you want to know more about relationships, and astrology, if you go to the link in my bio, you'll find the class on spicy astrology. But I actually talk a lot more about love than I do the spicy side of things, though I do talk about the chemistry. And chemistry is amazing. Hey, I'm a Scorpio rising. I'm all about good chemistry. And yet, when it comes to being in relationship, is it mutual? If you're investing time, energy, and resources into another person, is there something coming back? Because guess what? All relationships are transactional. In fact, the 7th house is all about transactions. You want to look at love and acceptance, that's the 2nd house, and that's something we cover in that class linked in the bio. And so the 7th house is about contracts and agreements and commitments, and it doesn't get more transactional, okay? Because you're merging resources, you're merging time, and time is precious. We don't get more time. That's the one thing we don't get more of. You can always make more money, you can always get more possessions, you can even find another person, but you don't get more time back in your life. So when you're looking at relationship, and I'm not telling anybody to dump anybody, and I'm not telling anybody to stay with anybody, I'm not trying to make up your mind, I'm just posing questions to examine, especially when we're in, the moon is in Cancer, it's squaring off the sun in Aries, okay? It will be opposing Pluto tomorrow, okay? So that's a lot of big feeling energy as well. Okay. And so these are all things to self-examine. You got, oh, there we go. Yeah. Got to speak each other's language. You got to be able to have some give and flow. Like sometimes, everybody can pick up the check. It's not about one person paying everything and the other person always receiving. Sometimes, to me, I prefer mutuality. That's my preference. I like two equal people walking along together. And if it isn't coming back in any way, shape, or form, whether that's emotionally, psychologically, physically, or financially, contributing, even contributing ideas. Ideas are brilliant. Then it's not a relationship. It's not a relationship. It's a one-sided thing. And so you have to examine on your own side. This isn't, you can have all the conversations, you can have all the resolutions, you can have somebody who makes it up, and then it slips back. And if it's doing that, maybe it's not the right relationship. So yeah, I'm just looking at what Casey's saying. Yeah, time is precious. Yeah. Well, nostalgia is going to be up because it is the moon in Cancer. So we're going to think over the past. Like as I'm talking, I'm thinking about my first marriage, where we loved each other. There was no lack of love in that relationship. There was a lack of emotional intelligence on both sides because we were young. There were a lot of unhealed wounds because we were young. And then he was not able to take on the job of healing. Okay. And so we couldn't repair the relationship, and it was painful. It still is to this day. It still is. Because there was a lot of love there. Sometimes it's not about love. It's about you live a human life and you have experiences. And that's the stuff we see in the astrology chart. And again, if you want to know more about love and relationships, there's a class I did up on it on love and spicy indications in the horoscope. And I gave a little talk about synastry, but we really looked at what love is, okay? And I think the word love gets so misused in our society, and we use the term unconditional love. If you're in a relationship with somebody, there's always going to be some element of transaction, okay? We can argue all day long, But we like people who are nice to us. And being nice to people in relationship is transactional. Now, you can just love who they are, but if we're unconditional, we can be unconditional, right? We can be unconditional and not be in relationship either. You know, so yeah. So getting help is important. If you need fixing, nobody else can do that but you and a professional, you know, because otherwise you end up in codependent relationships that just aren't healthy. And friends and lovers aren't always equipped to give you the kind of help you need, you know. That was one of the problems in my first marriage. My first husband had substance abuse issues. And, you know, I know why, et cetera, but I didn't have the skills to help. In fact, I didn't always make things easier or better for him. We were in our 20s. We both had our issues. And I was angry. I would feel betrayed. He would feel judged. And it was just a big cycle. And we didn't have enough information. If I could go back now with what I know now, man, I would. I would deal with it so much differently. But getting the right support is what people need when they have issues that are beyond the scope of a friend or a lover or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a them friend. It's important to get the right kind of support because, you know, yeah, everybody's an armchair psychologist, everybody's an armchair counselor, everybody watches the TikToks and understands, you know, this might be neurodivergence and this is trauma, etc. But they're not professionals and they don't have the skills. And it's not fair to anybody to do it that way. So love yourself enough to get professional support. And it might take 1 or 2 tries to get the help. The main point is that you're trying, okay? The main point is you love yourself enough to go get good support that can really help you. You are so welcome. I'm so sorry you're going through a hard time right now. Be gentle on yourself. Don't beat yourself up, okay? It's really important, really important. Unconditionally loving ourselves, okay? We can hold ourselves accountable. Accountability isn't about being harsh. Accountability isn't about, you know, beating ourselves up. I think a lot of people don't understand that. We can take, like you took accountability when you said, I relapsed today. You know, okay, right there, that statement, that's enough. You made accountability. The next step in accountability is getting the right kind of support. Like, I'm going to commit to getting the right kind of support for me. You know, I'm going to go find the right support. And it might be exactly this. That's that moment of destiny. That's what I was going to get around to talking about. We have these moments in time where we have a choice. Okay? And it might look like a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation. But when you make the choice that benefits you the most, that feels good on the inside, where you're committing to yourself and committing to the life you can live, where you can commit to believing in yourself just this much. You don't have to believe this much, just this much. When you can do that, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then you step into your destiny. You start taking charge of your life by accepting that sometimes we need help beyond what our friends and family or lovers can do. Okay, I refer people to therapy all the time as an astrologer. I'm not a therapist. I'm a certified life coach. I'm a certified business coach, but I'm not a therapist. And so I refer people out all the time, you know, to get professional help because I don't do therapy. That's not my job. You know, I'm not licensed to do it, so I don't. But I do refer people out all the time because it's important, right? So, yeah. Let me say. Oh, you like the eyeshadow? I played with it tonight. I feel it's a little garish, but that's okay. If you like it, that's cool. I was trying to go for a little lighter, but it just kind of stayed on, but yeah. Yeah, therapy is a great thing to do. Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah. So with this moon in Cancer squaring with the sun, it's kind of pulling up the things we need to self-examine here, okay? We need to self-examine. What decisions do I need to make that nurture me? What enlivens me, okay? Because sometimes when the moon is square the sun, there's a devitalizing, okay? Because you're kind of stuck at a crossroads and that energy is pushing. So you've got option A, you've got option B. These aren't really working out, so you have to find option D. Okay, you just skip right over option C, move to option D. Those are all really, really important. Destiny shows up in our charts in a couple of ways, through transits. Okay, so we've got the transit class right now. We start week 2, which is where we start getting into the transits. Last week was the introduction to transits. In fact, the class is still open if you feel like taking it. If you're a patron, remember you have a scholarship. The class is still open until tomorrow, and then I'm going to close it because I had 1 or 2 last minute requests. So if you're wanting to take the 10-week transit class, tomorrow we start getting into the nitty gritty at 11 a.m. Pacific with the luminaries, and we're looking at the sun and the moon by transit and what they mean, and kind of how to understand that through the astrology chart. I'm super excited about this class, but I'm also teaching a class in May. I don't even have this linked up on my website yet, just because I put it out last night to patrons. But if you go to wokeastrology.com, linked in my bio, then you go to the classes tab, then you can find that. And we're talking about the north and south node of the moon. I call it your soul's intent. And this is where we look at your personal destiny as described by the north node of the moon in your natal chart by sign and placement. And of course, we're looking at what we bring into this life in the south node. And so the transiting nodes also are moments in time. They're moments in time that give us a choice. It can feel so fated, but you always have a choice. And the thing I'm going to say is when you're making choices and you're looking at transits, you don't have to do something. Like when you read books on or definitions of the transits, you're not forced to do the stuff in them, okay? There's layers of how that energy expresses, okay? You have the basement level, you have your first floor, second floor, third floor, fifth floor, etc., yada, 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 penthouse, okay? Penthouse is when we're euphoric and we've had, a peak experience. Basement is when we're reactive AF and we're out swinging, right? We're throwing hands. We're bopping people on the nose. That's basement level. Penthouse is when we're like, oh. Most of the time we're in the middle. And that's a good place to be. The middle path is a good place to be. You have a lot of room for movement and you have a lot more agency when you go there. So when we have the nodes making big transits in our chart, whether you have the transiting nodes, south or north, transiting your angles, your ascendant, your IC, your descendant, or your midhaven. These are moments in time where you have some choices and it's up to you. You have to go into the feeling space. How does this work for you? Is this going to buoy you up? Is this something you needed? Okay. Is it a moment in time that gives you some kind of closure? Yeah. Oh, awesome, Tay. Super fun. I look forward to it. I love meeting everybody in the reading. Sorry, I have a giant mug. You guys have to see my new mug, by the way. I don't know why the handle is on this side, but it says, how you doing? It's a Joey mug from Friends. There we go. So, it's really, really important to pay attention. What does it say? I love Ram Dass. I found Ram Dass as a little girl. Yeah. Ram Dass was great, yeah. When I was a little girl, I read Ram Dass's book. I read Alan Watts. I read Steiner, Theosophists, you name it. Yeah, I found metaphysics really, really young and looked at world religions and then studied international relations, intercultural studies, intercultural communications, and anthropology just to try to understand what made human beings human. But yeah, he did a lot of cultural appropriation, as did a lot of people in the 60s and 70s. It wasn't uncommon, but he was a pretty chilled out dude. Unlike some of the people in kind of that spiritual world back in the 60s and 70s, I think he was one of the lesser harmful ones. And you have to things happen at different times and periods of time. But yeah, Ram Dass was kind of cool. I prefer Alan Watts. Mostly he had the yummiest voice ever. If you can Google his or YouTube, listen to his voice. Woo, yum. I have Venus and Gemini, so I'm all like, ooh, that voice. But yeah. Right? I wasn't close to Alan, but Alan and I corresponded in the late 90s. I was sad because he was so kind to me. I was a young professional astrologer, and we would email back and forth because I was getting into the deeper esoteric astrology, and he was the only one talking about it. And so we would email back and forth. He was so generous, and he never poo-pooed me. And I had a problem with the establishment astrologers in like the International Society for Astrological Research, etc., because he didn't want to move the narrative forward, and he was all about it. He was all about it. He was all about, moving things forward, progressing our understanding of things. And it just, at that time, things were so contentious. Like, I ended up literally on a message board telling everybody to F off in caps, for ISAR, because they were so resistant to studying trauma markers in charts. And their arguments made me question their character, basically. But he was very, very supportive of a young astrologer. And so one of the reasons I try to give as much information I can and be generous with my knowledge and my experience and the results of my research and my independent studies is because he was very kind to me. And I am not the only astrologer that he was so very kind to. So very kind to. He was a beautiful, beautiful human being who really cared. When I went on to Facebook, because I don't go on Facebook, but I went to see what astrologers were saying about Alan, and there were so many stories similar to mine, And if anything, we don't get to pick our legacy. Our legacy is really bestowed upon us by others. But if when I pass someday, I hope that's the legacy I'm remembered by, that I was kind. So he was a beautiful, beautiful man. But yeah. Yes, Alan Watts had a gorgeous English. In fact, he kind of sounds like my first husband. But yeah, he was very cool. Yeah, very interesting. He translates a lot of Eastern philosophy. Again, yes, it's appropriation. And it's also, European indigenous lore was similar in some respects before the Romans kind of took over. There's remnants. So I think some things are fairly universal. I think we need to not co-opt terms and make them our own and not credit what they are. He also did a lot of crediting of where the information came from, though. So he never claimed it of, this is my idea, and never explained where he got it from. So I think that's really an important thing to notice, too. Are people giving credit for the work? Are they giving credit for where they got the information? So I think that's a very important thing to remember. But yeah, I found Alan Watts as a young kid. I was like maybe 9 or 10, because I got to go into the adult part of the library, not the kids section, when I was 9, because I'd cleared out the kids section. It was a big old Carnegie library, and I lived in it practically. I loved the library, and I was an avaricious reader, and I cleared out the adult part. I liked anything except the engineering books. Like, I so wasn't into those books, but anything to do with philosophy, beliefs, I wanted to know why we're human beings the way they were. Why? Because I noticed as a kid, I was really observant, and I had gone through a lot as a kid. I was very, very aware. Let's put it this way, this chickie didn't get to go to sleep much in this lifetime. And so whenever I had the chance, I would study beliefs other than my own, because I was like, well, obviously not everybody's living by their beliefs. So how many different kinds of beliefs are there? What do different people think? What makes sense? What makes us human? Why can somebody be really lovely in one moment and really awful the next? Yeah, Alan Watts had a great sense of humor. Absolutely. Yeah, Alan Watts had a great sense of humor. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I had those fisherman sweaters when I went to England. Back in the day, like in the late 80s, the fisherman sweaters weren't in vogue. And so if you went to Oxfam, which is kind of like Goodwill, kind of not, kind of is, you could pick up these beautiful wool fisherman sweaters, Irish fisherman sweaters for like £5, £5. That was great. They were gorgeous. And so I bought them up. I found like 3 of them. And then I ended up giving like 1 to a fellow student who didn't have proper winter gear because they'd come in to our university from the Middle East. And, the warmest clothes they had were cotton. And it was freezing that January. So I was like, hey, you're about my size. Here, have my sweater. They were gorgeous. I love those. I love pea coats and fisherman sweater. If I could live in tweed, I would. Tweed and velvet. I love velvet too. I like rich textures. So it's a thing. In May, I've got this class called Your Soul's Intent, and we'll be going through the North Node and the South Node through the houses and the signs. It's a 4-hour workshop. It's going to be 2 Saturdays in a row because there's no way I can cover that in an hour and get you some depth. And I'm going to be demystifying some of the information when it comes to Western tropical astrology, and in specific, my brand of astrology, which is progressive evolutionary astrology. Because for me, it's all about helping people self-actualize and become, like, do something with the new awareness that they have, or the awarenesses that they have. Because it's not enough to be awake. Like, we had the Great Awakening. Then what? What do you do with it? What do you do with it? Right? You've got to do something with it. It's just like you wake up every day. You can lay there in bed with your eyes open and fall back asleep. You can get up out of bed, go brush your teeth, get ready for your day, and then you pick your activity, right? And you want to be mindful in it, right? The more mindful we are, the more agency we have, and the more we can determine things. So, do I have heavy Sag placements? I have Mars in the first house, Sag. I'm a Scorpio rising, but I have Mars in the first house, and then I have 9th house, Sun and Mercury Cazimi in Cancer. So you could say I have a fair amount of Sag elements in my chart, but in Mercury rule. So, yeah. So I've always been a student and I've always been a teacher. Do I know how to hypnotize? I do. I prefer not to. I prefer people being fully cognizant, making cognizant awarenesses. I think it's a very powerful thing when you can consciously determine what you want to do with yourself. So, and that could be because I am damn difficult to hypnotize. I have not met very many people who could hypnotize me. So, in fact, I haven't met one yet. I can self-hypnotize, but I am not able to be hypnotized. It does not work with me. So, try to hypnotize us? No, I don't do that. Those are not games. You don't want to hand your consciousness over to someone else. That's a dangerous thing. And you do it all the time by watching television or non-interactive activities. And it's really important to train your Mercury and to be very conscious. We need that right now. We're moving towards the Pluto in Aquarius era, and it's very important to hold our consciousnesses. It is not going to be all love and light and unity consciousness. Those are people who don't know what they're talking about when they talk about that. It's very important to own your own consciousness. So, my mods can answer the question about my astrology, guys. So, well, you embody your own energy. See, that's the point. You embody your own energy. And as a Taurus, you're going through enough with Uranus going through your sign. So, yeah. So make sure you listen to the podcast. I just did the latest episode, and I'll be doing another one. Oh, hey, if you guys do listen to my podcast, do you guys want more episodes a week? I've had requests for that in the past, but I wanted to know if that was still the case. Would you guys like, another, like instead of like most weeks I try to get into, sometimes I only have one a week, but would you guys like 2 or 3 episodes a week? Put a heart in the comments to let me know. We've never had a democracy in this country. First of all, we're a democratic republic. So we have a representational government, which is not democracy. But we saw the fall a long time ago as far as how our system works. That was like 20 years ago when the Patriot Act got signed. However, I think you will see it regained within the 20 years of the Pluto and Aquarius transit. I don't think it is entirely the fall. We haven't even had the U.S. Pluto return yet. No, we did not have it in February. We had the return of the Declaration of Independence, which was the start of the revolution, but there was no guarantee we would win said revolution. So we have about 9 years to go before we have the return, and that return is in Aquarius. So I think we will. I think we have some good flying shots. I'm seeing evidence of that, but it requires everybody to be involved. You can't just sit back and wish for things to happen. It takes you being involved. I talk about that on my podcast a lot. Yeah. In fact, I had a very gratifying reading today with a client who I've been seeing over the last year, maybe twice a year. So this was her first reading of the year. And she was inspired. She's young. She's in college. She's a college student, and she's starting a project. Really based on some things that she believes in strongly. But she was like, you've been talking about on the podcast that we need to be involved. And I've been thinking of like, what kind of projects can I do that help make things better and help find solutions? And I was so moved that I'm like, wow, that's what I'm here for. That if I can give just a little bit of influence and support and encouragement for you to have agency in your life and your communities, then I feel like I've really done my job. That's why I'm here. So yeah. Look at the year we're having. It's been hard for the last 20. I think just a lot of people woke up politically. I think a lot of that great awakening wasn't really just spiritual. I think a lot of people woke up politically. We've had it for a while. So there'll be plenty of things going on. So, yeah, owning our lives, owning our destinies, because, destiny shows up. You can let life happen to you or you can live it. And I've done both. I can highly recommend being more determinate in your actions. So, yeah. You don't need to be sorry. You're okay. You don't read for a stellium, and most of you don't have actual stelliums unless you've got 3 personal planets within 6 degrees of each other. The outer planets don't make stelliums on their own. So a lot of you have groups of planets, but a group of planet in one sign does not make a stellium. It takes the sun, 3 personal planets, okay, within 6 degrees of one another. Okay, so like Neptune and Pluto, they can be added to those 3, but you read it for your rising, because horoscopes are written for the activities of the house. That's what doesn't get explained. So horoscopes are written for the activities. The houses represent the activities and relationship you have to various sectors of life. Okay, so that's what horoscopes are written for. So if you have a mid to late degree rising, you'll want to read more than one of the horoscopes. So like I give instructions in my horoscopes on how to read them. And then people will ask in the Discord and we give our standard responses. But that's, you don't read for your stellium. I don't know where that came from, but that's not a thing. Now, there are some astrologers who write them for moon signs. And so if it specifically says moon sign horoscope, then you read it for the moon sign. Luminaries are personal planets. Luminaries are personal planets. Luminaries are personal planets. We know luminaries are not planets, but we call them personal planets because it's shorthand. Okay? Luminaries are personal planets. Yep. Yeah, well, that's just because people don't understand how astrology works. And that's why there's so many opinions about it, because people haven't actually studied it. So they just think, oh, this is this way. And they don't really know, especially scientists who talk out their asses about it. Like Neil. I'm going to keep giving him pot shots because he uses false premise arguments all the time without having studied the matter. And I think that is unbecoming of a scientist. Ooh, did I say that? I did. I can be catty. I'm not always all nice and soft and squishy. I'm a Scorpio rising. I have a reputation to uphold. So, yes, I get quite a few CEOs and public people who serve the public. Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been an astrologer for a very long time. So I get a lot of people from lots of different walks of life. And it's always very interesting. That's one of the reasons I became an astrologer, because I'm fascinated by human beings. So that's why I still do one-on-one readings. So yeah, glad you're here too. It's good to see you. So yeah. Yeah. Oh yes, it says, how you doing? How you doing? It's a Joey mug. I had to get it. How you doing? But yes, and it's giant, so I can have big mugs of tea at night or hot cocoa in the morning on a cold day. It's not cold right now, though. But yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It didn't quite turn out the way I was hoping it would turn out, but it's still okay. It's a cool color, so I think I need to get another set of brushes or some sponges or something to help with it. I mean, I have a set. I just think I need different ones that I can do a little more precision with. So, but yeah. You made tea because of me. It's like tea time because it's moon's in Cancer, so we need to be cozy, right? Cozy is good. So tomorrow we are doing the second week of planetary trans or see if I can talk. Astrological transits for beginners. It's the second week. Last week was the introduction to the course. We have a private Discord, and then I am what do you call it? Or did I close it? I might have closed it already. I don't know if it's open or not, so I'd have to go look. But I think it's still open because I had a student come in this week. So we're doing the luminaries tomorrow, and we're looking at sun, solar and lunar transits, because they're actually very causal. Of all the planetary transits, the luminaries are causal. And so we see a lot of activity happen. It's one of the reasons I'm very accurate, is because those are things I pay attention to. So that's all important stuff. All right. So speaking of, I need to go to bed to get ready for that. I want to thank you all for joining me live. Take it easy on yourself. The next 24 hours are, well, actually probably the next 48 or so are going to be a little crunchy heading into tomorrow. Oh, thank you guys. I love finger hearts. They're so cute. I'll get my nails done. I'm still writing a lot, so I'm not going to get my nails done until I'm done writing, because it just makes it much less error happening, a lot less typos. And then I'll go get my nails done and get all gussied up. But yeah. Haha. Very cool. Lord Purvis of Tweed. Excellent. Lord Purvis of Tweed. Makes you want to say it that way, right? Or Lord Purvis of Tweed. Right? Yeah, sweet dreams to all of you. Take care. Remember, we're in a very magical time, so things happen where you put your attention to it. Talk to you later.